carried over from our last meeting. That, Commissioner Likens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to begin by acknowledging there is an email from the court executive as well as a red line amended proposal that you should have in your email. If anybody should want paper copies of those, we do have paper copies here and we can split those, but everyone should have that in their inbox. We had that sent earlier today.
I'd go ahead and pass those around, please. And these are copies of two items that, as Commissioner Likens noted, were emailed to the Commissioner. So you should have them in your email if you're online. And we're now handing around the paper copies.
I'll give people a minute to get those passed out or to pull them up in their inbox.
And the items consist of the two items that were emailed to us by Court Executive Director Chris Gaddis, consists of both a redlined version of the language of C-18 that we were currently debating, and it consists of a letter as well. So with that, Commissioner Likens.
Yes. With that, you're also going to be receiving an email right now, and I will tell you why that's going to be there. So I move to withdraw our earlier amendment with consent of the body and offer a new amendment that was just now emailed to you with input from the Superior Court. And there are three small changes that once we take a look at the amendment.
So we have a motion or a request, if there's no objection, from Commissioner Likens to withdraw the version that we had been looking at, which appears on page.
You see that?
So currently we are. If you turn to page 30 of your online packet, what it shows at page 30 and 31 was the original C-18 proposal. If you go past that to page 33 in our current online packets, it shows what's entitled Amendment to Proposal C-18, which is what we were debating when we left off. And what I'm hearing from Commissioner Likens' motion is a request by consensus that on page 33 be withdrawn and substituted with a new amendment that is being handed out. Is that correct?
The amendment has just been emailed to you.
Oh, okay.
Three small changes to the amendment that was handed out.
All right. Well, let's start with the request to withdraw what we've been debating. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to withdraw what we had been debating on page 33. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of withdrawing what we had been debating as it appears on page 33, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, so that is withdrawn, and that was that motion. Commissioner Likens, did you have a second motion?
Yes, I do. So I'd like to move to accept the following amendment to the proposal C-18. There were copies that were just handed out, and unfortunately we weren't able to update those copies before the meeting, but there are, it was just emailed to you just now. There are three small changes to the amendment that was just passed out to you. And just to give some perspective, and actually, let me go.
You need to make a motion, please.
Motion and then second and then
Yep.
discuss the content.
Yep, that's why I was stopping myself.
Okay.
So, yes.
So there's a motion to begin debate on what has been emailed which consists of what is now in front of you on paper with some changes. So is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to begin debate on what has been emailed by Commissioner Likens. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
Heine?
May I speak to my
Just a
motion?
point of inquiry, if I may.
Sure.
We adopted meeting rules that allowed for amendments up until a certain time frame today. So I believe we would need to suspend the rules to consider an amendment to a proposal, unless I'm mistaken. At a previous meeting, we amended the meeting rules to say amendments must be submitted in email before the meeting tonight.
The point of order is that we had agreed that any additional amendments to pending proposals would need to be submitted today. That is correct. However, this particular amendment proposal came in from the Superior Court bench, who we had asked to hear from. So I am going to ask for consensus of the body to allow this amendment to be brought forward. Is there any objection? Commissioner O'Leary?
I have another question.
Okay. So seeing no objection, we will go ahead with considering the language provided to us by the Superior Court with the tweaks, I guess that's the word, with the modifications proposed by Commissioner Likens. So somebody's going to have to remind me. We had a motion and do we have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And
May I
then,
speak to my
yes,
motion?
Commissioner Likens, you may speak to your motion. Then Commissioner O'Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what you see before you in the email and what you see before you that was received right in front of you with the red line changes. So this was received late this afternoon from the Superior Court and the Superior Court staff. And this was, the red lines that you see were their recommended changes that we were told, approved unanimously by the Superior Court this afternoon. However, upon looking at this, and it was received in a very late hour, so apologies that we didn't get these amendments. It was received just before the meeting. There are 3 small changes that was just emailed to you. And in the first line, where it changes from hereby created a juvenile detention advocate office, we changed that back to an independent juvenile advocate office. And the reason is the whole thing of having oversight is having it be an independent of within the structure. So it's somebody who's looking somewhat from the outside, although under the Superior Court and the Superior Court presiding judge and the court executive. So that language we left intact. Forgive me, I have a really dry mouth. Thank you. The second change is in the second paragraph, number 2, the line that says pending available spending authority. This has been replaced with the council shall appropriate sufficient funding for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation to ensure that that is covered. And in the last part of paragraph 2, change the wording to, and this information shall be published on the Superior Court's website. In the email, you will see it bolded, the changes that were incorporated. So I know that's a mouthful, and I know it may be a little bit confusing, but the intent of this was to take the input from the courts to review it, which we really greatly appreciated, and we appreciated their commitment to looking this through and for meeting multiple times with different staff last week. But I do want to say that I believe that those 3 small changes take in this consideration, but bring the original intent of the proposal, which was for independent oversight. This is been and probably will be the most costly litigation in the history of this county. And in our meetings with the staff, which we really appreciated, they are working on this, and I think that's incredibly important. But saying, trust me, staff may change, people may change, this will stay within the charter and can ensure that there will be oversight. This oversight can help prevent litigation. When you have policies that are 10 years old or 12 years old at the last review, when there have been issues more currently, and I can speak to those later because I do have from an HR investigation some independent incidents that I will share later in my comments. But I just really would appreciate that people look at this thoroughly. We work collaboratively to take in input and make this better, but I believe this still holds the intent of the original proposal, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Leary is up next, but I would just like to ask, if possible, if our clerk and our communications director could possibly put on the screen what Commissioner Likens was just referring to, which she has emailed to the clerk, and then the clerk in turn emailed it to commissioners. But to the extent we could place that on the screen so folks can see it, that would be really helpful.
Madam Chair, another process.
Point of inquiry from Commissioner Heimlich.
We moved the amendments, but we did not move this proposal yet. So we're amending something that this body's not really considering.
I know.
We withdrew, but I think we would need to go back and move adoption of this
I believe
to
we
be in process.
I believe we did move that. No?
No, there was a motion to withdraw, and then we moved amending this document. But
This
we
is
didn't
a
move
separate-
this document.
Right, correct. This
Madam
is.
Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Layton.
point of order.
Yes.
You asked for what Commissioner Likens asked permission to withdraw, and there was given. She made the motion, I seconded it. That is the amendment before us of the amendment of C-18. So we are on an amendment of C-18 right now.
I think that's correct. But
Yes. No.
It's been close.
with the original proposal was withdrawn, so the decks are cleared on that. The motion was made to treat as a new amendment to the original proposal what was provided to us in red line by the Superior Court, with the two changes that the three changes that Commissioner Likens indicated and which has now been emailed. So that is the motion in the second, to debate the proposal that was just put up on the screen and that has been emailed to you by Commissioner Likens, which consists of the red lines proposed by the Superior Court bench with the three revisions, modifications spoken out by Commissioner Likens. And so we are debating that. So we will, to the extent there's a point of inquiry, that's the answer. So now we will have debate on that motion, and Commissioner O'Leary was up, followed by Commissioner Rohde. And again, if it's possible to put that up on the screen, or I don't know.
It just makes it a little difficult to see if the commissioner is online and letting them be as well, so they're going to have to chime in.
All right. I would like it on the screen if possible, so if somebody's online and I don't see you to call on you, please cry out. So again, just to level set, and I know the members of the Superior Court and our audience can take a look at it too. The debate is surrounding the red line version that was handed out, which is reproduced in its entirety there, with the three things that are shown in bold as a change. So it's looking a little layered, but okay. With that, I'm sorry, Commissioner O'Leary, go ahead.
No problem at all. Commissioner O'Leary, District 1, I apologize. Could someone read aloud the third change so that I'm clear what that says? I couldn't quite read it on the screen.
it's not really helpful to put on the screen from a user standpoint. Is it printed out or something else?
Well, that's a question for staff. This was provided to us at such a point prior to the meeting that there wasn't opportunity to print. So, in response to the point of inquiry, in subsection 2 of what the Superior Court provided us, it would be the change from what the Superior Court has provided us would be to strike from the Superior Court's proposal the language that said pending available spending authority and replace or put in there instead the sentence, the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review. So that's one. And then the second in that paragraph is going to the sentence that starts at the bottom of the red line page. Pierce County Juvenile Detention shall establish and maintain performance measures. The only addition there is to add at the end of that sentence the words, and this information shall be published on the Superior Court's website. So I don't know if there is access to a printer. If somebody is telling me there is, we could take a 1 or 2 minute recess and get that printed, because I think this is important.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner O'Leary.
I would like to get the court's opinion on this, as they are an independent branch from the executive or the legislative branch. I think it's very important that, first of all, I want to thank them for taking the time to put together the red line together with the summary that we requested, talking about the whys, and recognize that they didn't ask for this. They are responding to this. They are an independent branch, and I greatly appreciate their input and their attendance here tonight. I would like an exception to be made for them to give their opinion on these 3 changes before we cast a vote.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
So your motion is to take some form of comment from the Superior Court?
Yes, please.
Point of inquiry, Madam Chair. Is that a suspension of the rules or just an acceptance of, if we could just get clarification?
Well, I don't think it's covered in our rules, but it would definitely be an exception to our process, as we haven't engaged in Q&A during the course of the proposals, except as people have been presenting to us in the case of the Chief Financial Officer.
Madam Chair, for clarification, I'm not asking for Q&A. I'm asking for the separate branch of our government to have the opportunity to speak to the modifications to the document that they submitted as requested for a maximum of 5 minutes.
All right, I'm going to allow that. I'm going to ask that the Superior Court nominate a representative or split up your time. I'm going to give 5 minutes and address just what we're debating now, which are the 3 adjustments to the document that was provided to us from the Superior Court.
Madam Chair, point of inquiry.
Commissioner Willis, yes.
Commissioner Willis, please see me disagree. I'm actually seeing 4 in here, not 3. There's in subsection 1 where it says the direction of the Superior Court presiding judge and the court executive. The confirmation by the county council was struck out on a new amendment.
It was struck out by the Superior Court, and that strikeout was preserved in what Commissioner Likens has proposed. Are you looking at your email?
But there's 4 changes. Because from this one to this one, there's actually 4.
It's not, anything that was shown in red line is preserved with the exception of the items where if you look at the bolded items.
I
So,
guess I'm confused. confused because so independent was struck out.
Independent was struck out in the proposal from the judiciary. The proposal that is now being debated by the body is to put those two words back in. So with regard to subsection 2, the Pierce County Superior Court version sent to us, including the sentence pending available spending authority. The version that we're debating removes that and replaces it with the statement, the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review. And finally, at the end of the section of that paragraph, nothing that the court proposed is changed other than to add the final sentence, or the final portion of the sentence, and this information shall be published on the Superior Court's website. So I'm looking at Judge Quinlan. Is it clear enough to you what we're proposing?
Point of order.
Yes.
I just want to clarify something, because there's been a lot of questions from the public about the process and about whether or not we're doing things correctly. Is this something that can be done at the chair's discretion as response to the request from Commissioner O'Leary, or does it require a vote?
I think it can be done at the chair's discretion. I don't think that our rules address this particular situation. So
I was just wondering the distinction between a motion to overturn to a motion to go against the rules as far as the 2/3 majority, but did we require a motion here with a vote, or is it chair's discretion separate from?
yes,
Okay.
Commissioner O'Leary asked could that we allow the Superior Court representatives to address us for a total of 5 minutes maximum. And at the discretion of the chair, I agreed to allow that. I don't believe that it is addressed in our rules, and it does not require a vote of the body. Okay, so, Judge Quinlan.
Thank you. By way of introduction, my name is Tom Quinlan. I'm a Superior Court Judge. I hail from the 7th Council District. And first, let me just say thank you for your collective attention to this matter. We very much appreciate your response and your courtesies that extended to the entire Superior Court bench. How we got here, I'm going to take a minute to get how we got here. You remember last week, after that, members of the commission met with our executive director, our presiding judge, in terms of consultation. A draft was sent to us. You now have the red line version. The reason you got it today, this afternoon, was because the meeting that occurred with members was Wednesday. The holiday, of course, was Friday. We suspended our working responsibilities, had called a special meeting, had that, collaborated. 23 judges came to a conclusion in complete unanimous agreement with what has been offered you as the red line version. Now, to answer your question, let me start with what is easy, from my standpoint at least, in looking at what's been offered. We referenced in our draft that reports would be on the Superior Court website. That's in paragraph 2, near the end. Stating it twice does not offend the intent of what we had proposed to you. In other words, I would just say to add that in there as proposed is consistent with what the spirit and intent of what the court had offered by way of comment to you in unanimity. Let me move to the fiscal aspect of this, where the court's concerned, and its language, is, by way of reminder, is pending available spending authority. What we're looking at is an FTE on a juvenile court and the cost of the audit. What's been proposed is council shall appropriate. My collective concern just in hearing that was the words audit and data production. We're going to have an FTE, a full-time employee, excuse me. At least, thank you for the reminder. So appropriation should not be limited to just that of the audit and the cost of the annual reporting. The court's concern collectively and unanimously was that this endeavor, as worthy as it is, should not come out of our current operating budget, which is an exercise that we do annually, biannually, with collaboration with the executive's office and the legislative branch in terms of our reports, our desires for funding of all of the positions, the programs that we support on a countywide basis, some of which are statutorily mandated, others of which are discretionary, including, but not limited to, the drug court efforts, mental health courts, and the like. So my comment in conclusion about that is that to the extent that council shall appropriate, should not be intended to be limited to that of just the studies aspect of it, but the council should appropriate the full cost of funding this endeavor. As to adding the word back in independent, I'm not in a position to comment about that. I'm going to decline the comment about that and leave it to your collective discretion. There was some debate amongst us as the judiciary. I'm standing up here just individually taking an interest, of course, having been here and have a very keen interest in the outcome, but I'm not comfortable speaking for all 23 judges on that particular word or the reinsertion of that particular word. Any further questions that I can help with?
About 2 minutes left, so if anybody would like to ask a question, I will allow that. Commissioner Fletcher, followed by Commissioner Riddell Kelly, then Commissioner Hunter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Fletcher, District 5. Thank you, Judge, for your time and efforts of you in the court. We truly appreciate it. Section 2, second to last sentence, I'm not sure what clause number that is, and this information shall be published on the Superior Court's website. I'm concerned about this, and I want to know your opinion. Is it a good idea for the court to publicly publish findings on use of force, room confinement, staff training, policies and procedures, compliance? I'm particularly concerned about staff training and making public your policies and procedures and compliance thereof on websites. Usually, I don't want to. It doesn't say security in here, but I kind of see in the penumbras of this, there could be publicly posted information that could possibly endanger staff.
Okay. Commissioner Fletcher, your question has now occupied the remainder of the court's time, so to the extent that that's a question that can be answered quickly, if you have a thought.
What I will say is that individual records of juveniles will not be published. In other words, individual files, individuals' involvement with the courts is not intended to be published, but those procedures that staff follow, the governing statutes, what have you, or something that's within the public domain anyway. And there's no offense from the judge's standpoint in educating the public of what those issues and those procedures are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Commissioner Riddell Kelly, we're returning now to the debate of the motion that's pending. Is that what you wish to speak to?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Riddell Kelly, District 4. Before anything else, I just want to say, offer my deep appreciation to the originators of this amendment and to the many members of the court and other folks who have been involved in the process back and forth to try to make this better. I want to preempt what I think are going to be some of my concerns from some of the other commissioners about branches of government, with a note that there are always tensions between branches of government and things that need to be resolved. That's why checks and balances exist. That's why we have a tripartite government system in the United States at all different levels of government. And I think that this process has revealed both those tensions and the ways in which they can be resolved, ideally to the best of everyone's interests, and finding what works best for everybody, and I'm really impressed with that. So I am very, very much in favor of the language brought forth by Commissioner Likens. I think it is clearly an effort to align with what the court wants while maintaining the intent of the original amendment. I'm impressed with it. And I will add, while I deeply appreciate the court and all members of the court for being present throughout this process, that I just want to note that this comment about the fiduciary part and the cost, pending available spending authority, and the red line, the way it's written in the amendment in the red line is specifically, I read it in reference to the audit and not to the whole process. I went through the clause a couple times. And so I would take in very good faith that Commissioner Likens was trying to be very mindful about the way in which the proposal brought by the court was written. and was making a good faith effort to show that the court will not be absorbing that cost, and that the legislative body would be absorbing that cost by writing it this way. So that's how I read it, and I think that's like an olive branch, and I really appreciate it. So I'm offering my full-throated support of the amendment, or however you want to call it. Thank you.
Commissioner Heimlich, followed by Commissioner Rogi, and then Commissioner O'Leary.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Heimlich, I move to trifurcate the changes and treat them as individual amendments.
Second.
Point of order.
As a point of order from Commissioner Likens.
That's an amendment to an amendment, but sort of
Process. We'd be voting on them individually instead of as a package.
Could we get parliamentary advice on that?
This is going to take forever.
Okay, fine. I changed it to split the question. I mean, we're not splitting it in two, so that's why I use the word trifurcate, but that's the same definition as considering them as individuals.
So I'm hearing a motion to require each individual, I guess for want of a better word, each treatment of bolded language to be voted on separately. We have a motion pending to adopt what is before us, and I think I need some parliamentary assistance on that. Is that something that needs a vote of the body to require votes on individual items within the amendment? Yes, it does.
Susan, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Are you tracking this question?
I'm sorry about my video. I am, yes. So the motion is to divide the question, and you described how you want it divided. And so that is a motion that requires a second and a majority approval of the body.
Okay, so we have a motion to divide the question, and was there a second?
Yep.
Yes. Commissioner Fletcher.
Mr. Fletcher has seconded. Commissioner Heimlich, would you like to
Just
speak
to speak
to the motion?
briefly, some of these amendments I support, some of them I don't, and I'd like to be able to vote on them individually and vote for the ones I support and not vote for the ones I oppose. So that's why I made the motion.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to divide the question? Commissioner O'Leary, is your card up for that? Okay. So hearing none, we will take a vote on the motion to divide the question as proposed by Commissioner Heimlich. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I think we better do a card, raise your card vote. All in favor of that motion, please raise your card.
We're handing.
I see 10 hands.
All opposed, please raise your card or your hand online. Okay.
I see nine hands.
Any abstentions? One abstention. All right, that motion passes. Yes, thank you. All right, so now that we've divided up the question, we will proceed through debating the motion as divided. So I assume we would start with paragraph 1. So we're debating whether to adopt paragraph 1 to include the words "and independent." Is there any discussion on that? Commissioner Rogi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Rogi, District 3. The judges were in agreement when it said when "and independent" was removed. And I want us to consider that this will be reporting to Superior Court and subject to the direction of the Superior Court. and putting in and independent may not be, the RCW requires Superior Court oversight. So I think this conflicts with the RCW and should stay removed from the amendment. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Leary.
Thank you. I'm going to make this short, but this is going to be consistent with all three of these. With very few exceptions, none of us sitting here has the ability to evaluate this on any kind of legal merit. You have 23 judges that this was forced upon. They evaluated, they modified, they responded to our request, not only with a red line, but with a description of why. So what we're talking about here, as far as the previous lawsuits and all the issues, goes back decades. The modifications that we are making to their language as professionals, I think is insulting to them. And I think we really need to reconsider our position and our talents and what we're here to do. They are a separate branch of our government. We need to recognize that. They're not outlined repetitively or in any fashion to speak of in our charter. We're putting this in here without the talent, without really the education of what we are intending to do and the ramifications of it. So I think modifying this language from what the judges have submitted to us is an error on our part. And that is my position for all three of these modifications. So I would ask the body to please consider it from that perspective. Thank you.
Commissioner
Commissioner Roar, District 6. I'm just going to speak to the amendment. I appreciate the work of everyone, and especially the work to get a response back from 23 judges and to get information to them and for them to come back with a consensus. So there was a huge amount of work put into this. And so I'm going to be in support of the original language that the court provided, because we keep throwing around the word oversight, and we know that the courts have come in and they've provided documentation, facts, statistics about the new juvenile court and facilities. Significant changes have been made, and the oversight is an overreach, and this should not be imposed in the charter. It should not be imposed unless there's support. And I believe this is probably the most substantial piece that you're changing in this amendment. So the argument that this proposal is merely advisory or oversight is concerning. Oversight bodies are created to influence policy, operations, budgets, accountability, and decision making. The question is not whether the body would directly manage the courts. The question is whether the charter is creating a new political body to oversee or influence functions that the state has traditionally placed under judicial administration. Calling something advisory does not eliminate separation of power concerns.
Commissioner Roar, are you speaking to what we're debating, which is the insertion of the word independent?
Yes, because independent is being used as an advisory or an oversight body.
Thank you.
And so, yes, I am. Thank you. So I would urge the body to not support this change.
Okay. I'm going to exercise chair's privilege and contribute to the discussion. Seeing no other cards up, I think that adding the word independent back in.
Point of clarification or point of parliamentary procedure.
The chair can speak.
With regards to the chair being able to speak, do you have to, resign as the chair for the remainder of the meeting? I'm just asking.
The chair is perfectly entitled to speak in support or opposition to any proposal.
Okay.
I didn't see any other cards up, so I'm exercising my privilege to speak.
Thank you.
So I would urge that we leave the word, return the word independent to this proposal. The oversight or the separation of powers concern, I think, is fully addressed. This office, that is an independent office within the confines of the court, is appointed by the court, subject to the direction of the presiding judge and the court executive. Simply adding the words independent to drive home that the intentionality is that this advocate office is intended to have the ability to take in complaints and to not be overt or unduly influenced by its reporting structure. I think just adding that simple word makes it clear what the intention is, and I don't think it destroys in any way the separation of powers questions. The office remains fully within the Superior Court branch and fully directed and reporting up through the Superior Court. So I would urge that stay in. So seeing no other discussion on the determination to leave the word put the word independent back into section 1, all in favor of keeping independent in, please raise your cards. Oh, that's you, sorry. It's raising Commissioner Surratt, sorry.
I see 10 hands.
Okay. All opposed?
I see 10.
Abstain? Okay. Did somebody not vote? Or, wait, 20, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, the motion fails. So, independent will not be added into paragraph 1. Moving on to the second portion of the divided question, which is in paragraph 2, and it relates to the deletion of the phrase pending available spending authority, and inserts that the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review. Any debate on that? Commissioner O'Leary.
Just ask the body to please recall the statement about this, that 1 FTE is the minimum, and the wording that was asked for by the judges and submitted was done with purpose, intention, and a full knowledge of what it's going to take to operate this new oversight within the judicial system, and specifically the Raymond Hall operations. Again, I don't think any of us here on this body have a better understanding of what it's going to take, a better understanding than the 23 judges that have reviewed this document and modified it. So I would ask the body to reject the change. Thank you.
Commissioner Henwick?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My read on this is that pending available spending authority puts the ball, we're putting this in the charter, and then this puts the ball in the council's court to fund it. And I think that's the appropriate way to do it, whereas if we use the amended language, we're changing it to shall, and we then, this body, is making that decision and determination without full knowledge of the budget, without full knowledge of where all that is going. We're putting that in the charter of mandating an unfunded mandate upon the council and upon the citizens of Pierce County. So I prefer the pending available spending authority language and not the change. Thank you.
Commissioner Likens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I appreciate the court's input on this, but I will say, without either being in there, if it was said that this program is voted on by the voters, goes to the voters, is voted on by the voters, they will have to fund it. So it is an unfunded mandate. But I would like to remind you that under the watch of the Superior Court, for many, many years, countless lawsuits and ongoing concerns regarding juvenile detention oversight under the administration of the juvenile court. And I consider this the prevention. This is the prevention for lawsuits. When you have oversight, when you work within the hospital system like I do, when we have oversight to watch and make sure quality care is being given, that prevents future litigation and litigation risk. Things as simple as having very outdated policies, which, according to the HR report that occurred January 13th, 2026, the court pointed out at that time that the policies were most recently updated in 2014. That's over 12 years ago. That puts the county at huge risk and liability. And so this is I'm going to take care of my roof, I'm going to replace it to prevent the cost to help the house from falling down. It's putting the prevention into the funding, and I think it's really important. Thank you.
Commissioner Guillen, followed by Commissioner Hannock, and then Commissioner Rogie. And again, we're simply speaking to the line, the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Guillen, District 4. I'm speaking in favor of this change. I think this is actually responsive to the court's concern. By putting in pending spending authority, the court is saying, legislative branch, are you going to appropriate funds for this so we don't have to take it out of our existing budget? And by writing it this way, the charter is answering their question, yes, we are going to appropriate funds for it, so it doesn't have to come out of your operating budget. So I think this actually addresses what they were wanting, and I'm in support of this change. Thank you.
Commissioner Hannock, followed by Commissioner Rogie and Commissioner Rohr.
I'm always mindful of unfunded mandates, and I think this is going to have a blank check to fund this. We're not asking for a certain amount. We're not asking for a source of a certain amount. We're just saying you do it. So I would be against having appropriations be mandated in any way. I really think this is up to the council to make a decision on what they can appropriate if there is funds available. You're asking them to do a full audit or accreditation. There's other mechanisms at this moment to follow suit and watch over them. Can that be part of the language as well, is allow existing measures to monitor it, or now mandating another set of rules to mandate it? So I am against the unfunded costs. None of us here have access to the budget. None of us know the future. And this is going to go for 10 years where we're mandating these costs onto it. It should be a year-by-year analysis of what costs are appropriated and more of a council decision, not a charter amendment decision.
Commissioner Rogie, followed by Commissioner Rohr.
Thank you. Commissioner Rogie, District 3. I am not in favor of this amendment because I think that, as some other commissioners have stated, it is important that we respect the process of the executive and council developing the budget with community input, and whatever we mandate in this charter could potentially take away from funds that do go directly to services for kids rather than to a government reporting office. So I am not in favor of a mandate that says shall when we have no idea what the actual staffing, they say at least one time full staff, but there are supporting staff. And then when the reality of what this reporting structure entails, we just have no idea. There's been no fiscal note. There's been no analysis with regards to the county need. So please leave the language in there as it is with pending available spending authority that gives if this were to pass, it would give the court time to develop a budget and a staffing model that would be appropriate to implement something like this, that would then go through the process of budget approval through the council. Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer, District 6, I feel like the current language being offered, the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review is insufficient. It does not take into consideration 1 FTE, 2 FTE, or other potential costs associated with the setup of this advocacy program or oversight program. I think the language that's provided by our courts is clear. It talks about pending available spending authority, and spending authority belongs to the legislative body, which is your county council.
Absolutely.
And so I am also concerned of the entire charter amendment. It is a new mandate. It is an fully, at this point, unfunded mandate. And this is, it's frustrating that this body continues to put forward policies that do this time and time again when we are in somewhat of a budget crisis right now. And if you want to go down 4 years, we're in a bigger budget crisis. In 6 years, we're at $0 for funding our ongoing operations as a county. And we're playing around where we don't need, we can work out some of these problems. We can work out an MOU. We can do that collaboratively. We brought a bunch of people to the table, which is really positive. But this spending is not okay. I can point to our Pierce County Code. It talks 1.28.075. It talks about fiscal and community impact analysis required, and it talks about an A. Except for provided in subsection B, every proposed ordinance and resolution considered by the council shall include a fiscal note and a community impact note. Fiscal note means a written statement of the projected fiscal impact on Pierce County of an ordinance or resolution, and I'll just kind of add in there, or this charter amendment. The fiscal note should state whether the ordinance or resolution is projected to increase or decrease Pierce County government revenues or expenditures. Fiscal notes shall indicate by fiscal year the total impact on Pierce County for the first 2 years the legislation would be in effect, and shall also include a cumulative 6-year forecast of fiscal impact. Fiscal notes shall separately identify the fiscal impacts on the operating and capital budgets. And so I would urge the body to keep the language as it is currently submitted by 23 elected officials in our court system, that pending available spending authority is appropriate. Thank you.
Commissioner Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Herrera, District 2. My sentiments match the last few speakers. I too am opposed to this mandate. Again, the cost, no fiscal note. The cost of audits and annual reporting is, of course, a great concern to me. We are not legislators, and I feel like we're putting something into the charter that hasn't been researched as much as it should have been. I feel like we, as well as the Superior Court Department, are trying to make the best of a bad or awkward situation. And I just don't think it's going to work. And I just don't think that this belongs in the charter. And again, this amendment was never popular with me in the first place. I've had concerns from the very beginning, creating new departments. I just don't think that should be our business as commissioners. And for the simple fact that we simply can't afford it. We keep talking about Pierce County, our budgeting being in danger in the next few years, and this is just going to add to that. And also, putting additional things like this on the council's shoulders to figure out in a hurry. And I don't believe that we need to be doing things like this. Doesn't belong in the charter. Thank you.
Commissioner Rohr, do you have your hand up again? Okay. All right. So again, we're debating the insertion of the language, the council shall appropriate sufficient funds for the cost of the independent audit or accreditation review. Commissioner Willis.
Commissioner Willis, District 3. Just in doing a lot of this research on the fly here, just across my eyes. I appreciate Commissioner Likens' I'm trying to find the word. The similarities to building a house that's in the roof, but if the walls aren't right and the foundation's bad, that roof doesn't matter. And my concern is that, as day one has been, would this create a debt limit problem by putting this into the charter? And so far I haven't heard that it would or that it wouldn't, but there's a ton of speculation around this. And so, understanding the Washington State Constitution, Article 8, Section 6, states that limitations upon municipal indebtedness, that no county, city, town, or school district, or other municipality, corporation, shall for any purpose become indebted in any manner to the amount exceeding 1.5% of the taxable property in such county, city, town, or school districts. So I guess my concern is, since we don't know if this would create a debt limit problem, and I'm hearing all this talk about the budgets not being here in 4 or 6 years, are we doing the right thing by putting this in the charter and not understanding what it's going to cost? We understand the cost of litigation, I get that. We understand what we're spending. But in all fairness, do we know what this is really going to cost? And is this potentially going against the state constitution by not knowing what it's going to cost? And so I should have asked that question earlier, I guess, but I have it now. So there it is.
All right. Seeing no, Commissioner Likens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one last comment. I hear the concerns about budget issues, but I'd like to remind everybody that a lot of the budget issues can potentially be related to the lawsuits that could have been prevented by having this type of oversight all along. Thank you.
Right. Seeing no further discussion, Commissioner O'Leary.
Yes, just one last comment. Commissioner O'Leary, District 1, just to remind the body, based on testimony that we've received, the lawsuits stem from decades-old claims because the statute of limitations had been removed. And I think the most current lawsuit was, I believe, 2015, which is over a decade ago. So while any kind of violation of a human being, in any case, at any time, is heinous and shouldn't happen, and I am absolutely against that, what we're dealing with here is issues. We used to say, you're closing the barn door when the horses are already gone. We're talking about old issues that have happened and trying to equate that to current day based on current operations. And I still contend that none of us here have firsthand knowledge of the current operations to any great extent of Raymond Hall. I think we are somewhat speculating, we are somewhat doing investigative work, and I commend people who have done that. But we're grabbing bits and pieces and trying to make a comprehensive argument for or against here, and I just think we're out of our depth. And so again, I would ask the body please to consider the professionals here in the room that have given their time, their expertise to come and explain to us what they think is the best procedure going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further discussion on the specific question of whether to add in the language related to council's appropriation of sufficient funds. All in favor of the proposal to add in that language and to, as opposed to the statement pending available spending authority, please raise your cards or your hand.
I see 11 hands.
All opposed to that language, please raise your cards or your hand online.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I see 9 hands.
Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passes. So the continued debate will have that language in it. Moving on to the next and last section of the motion to divide, or the divided question. It's the last insertion, which simply adds, and this information shall be published on the Superior Court's website, as modifying the second to the last sentence, which requires the performance measures to evaluate the various items and this information to be published on the Superior Court's website. So any discussion on whether that language should be included in the proposal? Oh, Commissioner Layton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Layton, District 7. Just that we did hear from the court's opinion that obviously important information that wouldn't be subject to just any other public records wouldn't be up there, but really good information that is transparent and accountable. The court said they were fine with that and not afraid to have that information up there, so I urge the body to approve this language. Thank you.
Commissioner Hyman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to say a lot what Commissioner Layton said. I heard from Judge Quinlan earlier that he said this was not a burdensome or an excessive thing, that they were in favor of it, so I will be voting yes. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion on the precise question of whether the information published on the Superior Court's website goes to the performance measures, all in favor of including that language, please raise your hands online or raise your cards.
I see 14 hands.
All opposed?
I see 4 hands.
Any abstentions?
2 abstentions.
Okay, that motion carries, that motion passes. So now returning to the main debate of this proposal with all of the language suggested, with the exception it no longer states "and independent." So pretend you don't see that. So is there any further discussion on whether to adopt this proposal, which is an amendment to the original C-18? Commissioner Molesky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm still concerned about this because I still believe that it's a little bit of an overreach. Some of the talking points that was brought forward, one of them was in regards to finding out at the HR department that their policies hasn't been updated since 2014. That's a really huge concern for me from there, because then I have to wonder what was HR doing, because they should always have that updated and consistent so it's aligned to the current year. But on that note, it doesn't justify us to still have an oversight committee. That's an internal issue that should be taking place with the leadership there in the HR department to fix that. The other thing is that I have to chime in with Commissioner O'Leary. The thing is, this is more of a sensitive issue. All right, the profession in this matter here is extremely important to have people that understand this from beginning to end. And that's something that we need to look at. These judges in Gaddis, they see these individuals from beginning to end. They know the psychological profile, they understand their personality, they know what's going on. To have an oversight come in and try to determine what's true and what's not true, what's right or what's wrong, is going to be very challenging because they have to have the full scope of exactly what took place. The one thing, though, that I haven't heard yet, and maybe Mr. Gaddis can fill that in if that's possible, is the parental relationship with the Raymond Hall. You know, is there a good, strong program there? How are they communicating with the parents in regards to different issues? How are the parents able to do an inquest if they have questions in regards to that? That's something I still believe has not been addressed, because that is the issue in regards to making sure there's accountability and making sure that the child is safe and as well as the parents being informed in regards to that. The other thing is that I still haven't figured out what gap exists that current oversight mechanisms are failing to address. You know, does an additional oversight committee improve outcomes enough to justify the cost, administrative burden, confidentiality, concerns, and potential interference with the judicial branch? And that's the key thing, is interference with the judicial branch in regards to that, because we want to make sure that we have the most qualified people that can understand the process to be effective in that area. So in Pierce County, I'm kind of specifically looking at, you know, is there evidence of a documented pattern of unresolved complaints? Are there findings from audits showing oversight failures? State findings of non-compliance? Are there litigations demonstrating system problems? Whether existing grievance procedures are inadequate? I still think that we have not met any of those thresholds that justify that this should be in the charter, especially for this program, which is separate from the executive branch. I feel that we are interfering in something that's not based on our qualification, nor shall it be in our charter. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, Commissioner Rydell Kelly. Oh, I'm sorry. And who had their hand up online? Was that Commissioner Molesky? Oh, was it? I didn't see your card. Did you just put it up? Or?
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. So, go ahead. Who's going?
You can go first.
Okay, Commissioner Rogie.
Point of clarification before I start. We are talking about the proposed amendment that the judge has submitted now, and then we will have to vote on the proposal to move forward again.
That is correct. So we're voting to amend, as is before us, the original C-18 proposal.
Thank you. Commissioner Rogie, District 3, I do want to commend the effort that has gone into making this amendment better, this proposal better, and especially the courts and the judges who I know have very busy schedules, but felt strongly enough about this and collaborated with the team, the commissioners, to amend this to something that works with their required responsibilities through RCW. And while I will not be supporting this amendment moving forward, because I really don't think this is appropriate for the charter, this is operations, this is policy, this is reporting, this is an unfunded mandate, all of the reasons that I am not going to be supporting moving this forward. I do support the amendment that the judges have put forward because it does make this better. And I think that their willingness to do this work obviously demonstrates that they're doing it already. So in addition to that, it's duplicative. So I do support the amendment, but I will not be voting to move this to the ballot because I just don't think it's appropriate. Thank you.
Commissioner Likens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I too appreciate the court's and the staff meeting with us last week. It was really meaningful to have your input and to help make this work within the judicial system and take away, the issues over which department this would report to, etc. And I think that was really good. I also want to point out that I also appreciated hearing a little bit about your responses to the past concerns, focusing on correcting course. And I truly believe that independent oversight is still needed to identify problems that lead to real, measurable change. And in response to a few of the questions that Commissioner Molesky brought up, she brought up whether or not there would be somebody available to families. And I'd like to point out in the first paragraph, it says, the office shall be available to juvenile detainees and their families to receive and respond to complaints, monitor conditions, and comply with regulations governing mandatory reporters. So that person is going to be resolved. And in regards to, have there been any recent issues? I'd like to read from a report that was done January 13th, 2026. And it was a juvenile court investigative overview done by the Human Resources Department of Pierce County. And I'd like to read some of the conclusions. The investigation into juvenile court operations at Raymond Hall identified multiple systemic gaps in oversight, inconsistencies in hiring, probationary evaluation, discipline, and PREA compliance. And I'd like to explain for those of you who don't know, PREA is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. In the 2025 Prison Rape Elimination Act report for Pierce County that is available on their website, in 2024, Pierce County Juvenile Court underwent a PREA audit conducted from January 30th to February 1st, 2024. In that report, the county was placed on a 6-month corrective action plan. And for anybody who works with accrediting authorities, being put on a 6-month active plan is that they're giving you time to correct what is missing in order to pass the accreditation. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Here's what they listed was not up to speed. Forgive me. Ensure comprehensive documentation is completed for all PREA investigations, including all required elements necessary to determine whether an allegation is substantiated, unsubstantiated, or unfounded, because they weren't doing that. Implement a comprehensive and objective screening tool to assess risks of sexual victimization and abusiveness for all youth upon intake and ensure staff are trained in its use. That was not being done. Conduct and document weekly multidisciplinary meetings involving a detention manager, PREA coordinator, mental health specialist, and nurse to discuss youth PREA safety, mental health, and medical needs. Also not being done. Develop a detained coordinated response plan for incidents of sexual abuse and train all supervisors in its implementation. That also was not being done. Now, upon this report, they did complete a corrective action plan and were able to pass the audit June 12, 2024. But the document I read from in January 13, 2026 still showed significant gaps. There are independent in this report, and I'm happy to email it out to the entire commission. There are cases that are discussed that quite honestly should come with a trigger warning. They're quite disturbing to read. This is a problem, and the courts, in our conversations this week, they are making changes. But those personnel could come and go. This needs to be a priority. And is it an unfunded mandate? Yes, it is. But it's a preventive cost structure. This is to prevent not only the human cost, but the financial cost and risk to the county. I strongly urge you to support this, because even though these were years and years ago, there are still concerns currently. Thank you.
Commissioner Molesky has her hand up. Before that, I'd like the record to reflect that Commissioner Behrens has joined us at approximately 8:50. So, clerk, if you could please note that she is now part of the meeting. Commissioner Molesky, this is your second time speaking to the amendment. Seeing nobody else with their card up, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate Commissioner Lakin with the information and statistics that she brought forward. It just proves the point that there are things that it's always going to be ongoing. We're not going to have everything perfect. I know that speaking with Mr. Gaddis there, he just came into play from there, and so he has noted a lot of the changes that they are accomplishing to be able to rectify what happened in the past from there. The thing is that people do come and go from there, but the oversight committee should not be the permanent structure to fill in those blanks. Because there's no consistency of when the new person comes into play in regards to making sure that they are on the same page as they go through the training to be effective workers in that position. Once again, that's an internal thing that needs to be taken care of with Gaddis and the team that they employ to make sure that they have people who are proficiently trained and understand the content that needs to be done. Granted, we have identified things in the past. It seemed like Raymond Hall had a huge problem years ago, but that's something that's not going to be resolved overnight. It'll be resolved over 5 years and so forth. But the key thing that was brought up, and which I really am pleased to hear, that changes are being done, problems are being resolved, all right, and we should take a look at that in regards to that the new structure that's in place of the personnel that came in is making these changes, have identified these same weaknesses that was brought to our attention, and they're being worked on. From there, they should have the opportunity to be able to do those things and then reassess it afterwards, whenever the next audit is going to be. But the thing is that to take some of these things and use it to justify the need for the oversight, I don't think is the place to be. Let this be where it belongs, which is the Superior Court, with Mr. Gaddis. They're working together, they're bringing the changes, they've identified these things, they're working it as smoothly as possible. I really have the confidence in knowing that they are also working more better with the parentals and community to ensure that the children are being taken care of properly, reports are being posted. If I'm not mistaken, their website does provide an option where the parents can see what's going on in regard to their child and get reports and so forth. So these are the things that we've been bringing up as weaknesses that Mr. Gaddis and them, who are brought in changes in 2026, is becoming their strength. And we need to capitalize on that to showing that these things are being fixed, they're being resolved. It's going to take a little while. But the thing is that I believe that they're in the right direction. I believe that they got a stronghold than what was better than previously, and we need to acknowledge that and let them do what they need to do. It takes professionals. It doesn't take an oversight committee, and it should not be in the charter. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the matter before us is a vote on whether to amend original C-18 as has been discussed. So all in favor of that motion, please hold up your cards. Or raise your hand online.
I see 14 hands.
All opposed?
Oh, Sharon and Brenda Fletcher. Willis.
I see 7 hands.
Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passes. So we will now move back to the main motion, which is to advance C-18 as has now been amended to the ballot. Do we have any further discussion on that? Commissioner Roby.
Commissioner Roby, District 3. As I stated earlier, I am not supportive of this type of proposal going out to the voters with regards to operations or a program funded to the courts in our charter. The charter should not, it seems like we're trying, once again, to legislate from the charter review, and that's not what we're here to do. So we're adding a whole new section, a whole new department, that's basically, although it claims to be a juvenile detention advocate office, it's more of an accreditation and reporting office. So adding another layer of bureaucracy that's going to cost the citizens of this county without a guarantee that it's going to make it any better, because the Superior Court is one of the most regulated departments. They already have oversight, existing reports and requirements, a very committed Superior Court justice system that wants to do right by the youth that are in their system. Pierce County Juvenile Justice Assessments that happen, they analyze the system, detention, best practices, referral rates, diversion, probation, outcome, recidivism, I can't even say it, recidivism, etc. PREA, as you heard from Commissioner Likens, PREA is has requirements, and as whenever you're involving humans in any type of activity, there are going to be mistakes and shortcomings. So they do have oversight, and then they work to fix it. We have the juvenile, the new process where Washington State reports to track detention reductions, and Pierce County achieved major drops in admissions while the populations grew, because we're focused on JDAI practices where we're not trying to lock up youth. We are giving them opportunity. There are many RCWs, RCW 13, .40, .60, .20, .22, .04. There's already a child advocate program that has volunteers. It began in 1983. There were 6 volunteers and 1 employee. Now there's 200 plus volunteer court-appointed advocates and 9 advocate supervisors and 14 guardians supported by 3 program supervisors, 4 office assistants, 1 case monitor, and 1 program attorney. Advocates for approximately 300 plus of the 1,200 children they serve. They're accountable to RCWs. So this advocate program, this child advocate program, is already there, and it's already overseen by RCWs. Again, 13.34.100, 13.34.102, and it goes on. So the juvenile diversion, juvenile detention alternatives initiatives gained national, they gained national recognition because of the effect that it, how much we reduced youth detention by, 88%, partnering with Annie EKC Foundation. They have innovative practices like opportunity-based probation, designed for young people that includes goal-oriented case plans. So the work is being done. There's already a large staff that is supporting this and large volunteers. We should not be legislating from this charter review, and that's what this feels like. We're going to put something out to the voters that we don't know how much it'll cost or how much impact it'll have when we have all of these things already in place to oversee the Superior Court with experts who know how to deal with children, and the courts who know how to deal with detention. So I urge a no vote on this, and while I really appreciate that it was made better, especially with the judge's input, and that they could live with this proposal, because this had already made it so far through the process without them even being contacted or worked with. Finally, they do get an opportunity to speak out. I think that shows their willingness and their commitment to serve our youth. So I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Hunter, followed by Commissioner Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Hunter, District 4. I just wanted to respond to a couple of the things I keep hearing. One of this is an unfunded mandate, which is true. Everything that we're doing in the charter is an unfunded mandate. We don't have the capacity to levy taxes. We didn't get a fiscal note for this, but there's other things that this body has passed that hasn't gotten a fiscal note. We didn't get one for a 4-year budget outlook, or extending the deadlines for referendums or initiatives. And then overreach. The amendment as it stands now, or the proposal as it stands now, doesn't have any any executive branch oversight. It's all contained within the judicial branch, and that also we, this body, our purview is the charter, I suppose, or to recommend things to the voters about the charter, and the charter's purpose is governance. This is just like a 4-year balanced budget requirement. It's governance. And then I have a couple of notes left. I think this amendment also protects all the stakeholders, the judicial branch, the county, the people who have to interact with Raymond Hall as offenders. And I think that the audit that was done, the pre-audit that found deficiencies, and we were put on a 6-month corrective plan. And then I also want to commend the folks at Raymond Hall for the improvements that have been made. This is really important, but I also think that this is a case for oversight. These happened because there was an investigation, and so continuous oversight, I think, would be appropriate and helpful. I think that this would help the judicial branch, the judiciary, meet their requirements. And also, the proposal as it stands directs funding for it, so it won't come out of their budget. And also, I want to point out that this isn't about who is to blame. This is about outcomes and public trust, and how can we increase public trust and get better outcomes. And this amendment does that. And so I will urge, one more thing. I keep hearing that this is too expensive. And I also hear from public comment that, protecting children is very important to them. So we can't have both. You can't have protecting children is too expensive, or we want to protect children. There's a dichotomy there that is mutually exclusive. And so I will be urging all my commissioners to support this proposal. Thank you.
Commissioner Strickling, followed by Commissioner Willis.
I just wanted to correct something that Commissioner Rogi was talking about. She said she was talking about recidivism rates and other indicators. So we struck that from this amendment that we passed. So I just want to keep commissioners honest when they're talking about their points to take down whatever side that they're doing. So that's it. Thank you. I'll be voting for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Willis.
Commissioner Willis, District 3. So the earlier comments, hearing it both and not having it both ways, and protecting children and also funding that request. Being a former builder, I never once went to my clients and said, hey, I'm going to build your house, give me a blank check. And I feel like that's what this is we know what the problem is, but we don't have the solution quite yet. We have a budget problem with the county right now. We have a housing problem, but that doesn't mean I get to go and just build houses without understanding what it's going to cost. And I feel like we are just giving the county a blank check to say, hey, it's for the betterment of children, and this is for the betterment of our county, when I think everybody in here agrees that, yes, helping kids, absolutely. That's not a secondary effect, but the cost to get there is. And I think there's a better way to do it. I think this amendment was proposed months ago, and just even talking with the executive office about some sort of fiscal number. Give me a ballpark. Give me a 1 million. Give me a 1% of the budget. I mean, something to be able to run with here. Getting a blank check is just a little too big for my constituents that are mostly made up of seniors and strapped with taxes that cannot literally afford to live right now. So by voting yes on this, I think I'm slapping them in the face, because I'm having these conversations weekly about what the hell is Pierce County doing? Why do they continuously raise taxes? I believe this ultimately leads to raising taxes, because I don't see where in the budget this would not create a debt limit problem. So I just ask everybody to be mindful of that, regardless of your political and partisan views. It just doesn't look right. So I'll be voting no for this.
Commissioner
for District 6, the juvenile detention is administered under the authority of the Superior Court. The charter should not be used to direct the internal oversight structure. Reporting duties, staffing, record access, audits, accreditation, and performance measures of a court administered function. The proposal creates a new office inside judicial detention, gives it access to facilities, personnel records, requires reports, audits, and directs performance measures. These are serious operational details. They may be important, but they belong in state law. They belong in court rule. They belong, if we want to see this, put this proposal through, not prematurely, not forced. We would do this through an interlocal agreement or a memorandum of understanding, or an ordinance where it might be more appropriate, but not permanently embedded in the county charter. And I mentioned earlier my concerns with an oversight body, and I know it might seem small to you, but it is an overreach. It absolutely is an overreach, and that can be argued legally in the court system. And I think our judges, you know, like, we're a body of 21, they're a body of 23, doing really extensive work, but they came to the table with a proposal that would work. And literally a little bit forced. And I don't know who we think we are. But I'm serving at the pleasure of my constituents. I'm serving at the pleasure of each independent office, respecting the separation of powers, respecting good intent. But good intent doesn't make this right. So I am appreciative of the amendment as it has been amended, but this does not belong in the charter. Juvenile detention is court administered. It's not in, doesn't belong in any other lane. Not even if you fund it. This is largely operational, not structural. The charter should set the basic structure of county government. We have that in place. This amendment reads like an oversight program, staffing, certifications, access rules, complaint handling, reports, audits, accreditation, data categories, performance measures. These details belong in state law, court policy, court rule, even in ordinance where legally appropriate. The county should not place a court-administered oversight system into the charter, especially as it creates separation of power confusion. Creating this oversight office places charter level direction over a court administered function.
No.
And I would urge Kelly. Do not pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Leary, and then Commissioner Rogie, and I believe that it would be Commissioner Rogie's second time speaking to the main motion. So if anybody else has something, I'll go first.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. A lot of the opposing comments I'm in full agreement with. One thing I did want to remind the body of, based on a previous report that we received, the current population of Raymond Hall is 11, and I believe the staffing number that was given to us exceeded 30. So as far as physical oversight inside the plant itself, it's almost a 3-to-1 ratio, as I recall. And then secondarily, the reason it's 11 is because of the parole practices and some of the unique things that the current operation has put in place and actually gotten recognition for. So I think it's really important to recognize that there are quality things being done. There's quality oversight practices in place. And I don't want to push this into just a financial decision, because safety of kids is extremely important. And I don't think we should necessarily just equate that to a dollars and cents issue. But I do strongly feel that there are quality things being done, that the kids have a certain amount of oversight, and recognizing that the people that have spoke before us have noted that the kids that are still detained there are the worst of the worst. These guys didn't just shoplift. They did some serious, egregious things to members of our community. And if we're truly going to try to make our community safe, detaining bad actors is part of it. So I do think there's appropriate oversight. I do think that we have issues that we have addressed and that we're doing better with, and that we will constantly have issues that we need to address and that we need to improve on. I don't think that changes. I think that as far as this being in the charter is a grave mistake. You know, I remember somebody bringing up an amendment before that was bantered about, spoke very highly of by members of our community and other elected officials, but yet dismissed because it was policy. I see this much the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would ask the body to consider strongly before voting on this. I don't believe it belongs or should live in a document that only gets reviewed once every 10 years. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Likens, and then I will go after that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep my comments brief because we've talked about this a lot. In the current form, I believe that we have addressed the separations of powers issue. Originally, this was a department within the executive office, and with the input of the courts, we did move it within the Superior Court so that it could be maintained within their system. I take fiduciary responsibility very seriously. The strong oversight that is provided, though, can decrease liability risk. And without those safeguards, it puts the county at financial risk, as has been evidenced by the last few years, or several decades. Without independent oversight, there is an increased risk of unchecked conditions and exposure to serious harm, including allegations or acts of sexual misconduct or assault. And yes, these are the worst of the worst. The data from 2025 shows that the average daily census at the end of the year, December 31, 2025, was only 25. But of those 25, I'd like to point out that there were 7 allegations of sexual misconduct reported. There were 6 allegations of sexual harassment, and 2 of those sexual harassment claims were substantiated. So this is serious business, and it's not out to have a ton of money to pour into this program. It's just about providing the courts with funding for oversight to reduce liability risk. That's what this is about, to protect the kids. Thank you.
Point of order. Madam Chair, could you ask that the public not approach the dais?
Yes, point well taken. Please, members of the audience, remain in the audience area and don't approach members of the body or come to the tables. Thank you. Commissioner Hannock.
Okay, there. I think the concept of what we're trying to do here is a good idea that needs to be explored. But in 5 months, we're not experts, and it's kind of, this is the world we want to create. So we've been morphing this and amending it and changing it, and then towards the end of the game, having more input from the people that are stakeholders. And I just don't feel this is really set to take to the voters and say this is the final product, when we're still in the process of amending it and thinking. And so it's not really something that we can do in 5 months to take to the public and say, here it is. It's all, this is the way we want it to be, and this is what you're going to do. And we know it's an unfunded mandate. We know that these things are happening, but we don't care, is what we're really saying. We're going to throw it at you anyway. I think it's better off at the council level, where they can thoroughly look at it. At other levels, that there could be a work group to really thoroughly investigate how to do it the best way, and just morphing it in 5 months with various different sentences, tweaking a word here and there just to make it better, is tweaking it. It's not really putting together a comprehensive package. So I am a no vote on this.
So we'll move on to see no other comments. So seeing no further discussion, we are taking a vote on whether to send C-18 as has been amended to the ballot. This is a roll call vote. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Lisa Boyd. Yes. George Consuelo.
Aye.
Mason Fletcher.
No.
Kate Ginn.
Aye.
Sharon Hannock.
No.
Caleb Heimlich.
No.
Elizabeth Herrera.
No.
Billy Joe Hetherington.
Yes.
Jake Hunter.
Yes.
Martha Lance.
Yes.
Justin Layton.
Aye.
Brenda Likens.
Yes.
Brenda Maluski.
No.
Jerome O'Leary.
No.
Holly Rogie.
No.
Lujana Rourke.
No.
Devin Rydell Kelly.
Aye.
Troy Surratt.
Yes.
Jen Marie Strickling.
Yes.
Judson Willis.
Nay.
Kelsey Behrens. Aye. The results of the roll call vote is 12 ayes and 9 nays.
The motion carries. Commissioner Consuelo?
Way to go, Team U12.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to pass C-29 into the hopper